Chapter 8 The Paired Heirs. During the night, Flora Baumbach's itsy-bitsy snowflakes raged into a blizzard. The tenants of Sunset Towers awoke from clue-chasing, blood-dripping dreams, bound in twisted sheets and imprisoned by 15-foot snowdrifts. No telephones. No electricity. Snowbound with a murderer! The slow procession looked like some ancient mysterious rite as partner sought out partner on the windowless stairs, and silent pairs threaded through the corridors in the flickering light of crooked, color-striped candles. The product of Turtle's stint at summer camp. "These handmade candles are both practical and romantic," she said, peddling her wares from apartment door to frighten tenants at 7 in the morning. Oh, it's only Turtle. "And the colored stripes tell time, which is very handy if your electric clock has stopped. Each stripe burns exactly 1/2 hour, more or less. 12 stripes, 6 hours. "How much?" "Not wishing to take advantage of this emergency, I've reduced the price to only $5 each." Outrageous! Even more so when the electricity came on 2 hours after her last sale. "Sorry, no refunds," Turtle said. No matter. What was $5 to heirs of an estate worth $200 million? Clues. They had to work on those clues behind closed doors. Whisper. Someone may be listening. Not all the heirs were huddled and plotting, puzzle-solving pairs. Jake Wexler had retreated to his office after a long and loud argument with his wife. He sure could have used half of that $10,000, but he wouldn't admit it. Not to her. The forfeited money upset her more than the murder of her uncle, if he was her uncle. 5 floors above, Jake's partner stood before the restaurant's front window, staring at the froth on the angry lake and beyond. No one had bothered to tell Madame Hu about the Westing game. Other players were snowbound elsewhere. Denton Deer in the hospital, Sandy at home. No one gave a thought to where Otis Amber or Crow might be. But Sidel Pulaski was there, thumping her crutch against the baseboards as she limped through the carpeted halls on the arm of her pretty partner. Not 1, but 7 tenants had invited her to morning coffee or afternoon tea. Murderer or not, they had to see Pulaski's copy of that will.
3 lumps, please. Angela drinks it black.
Your health?
Thank the Lord I'm still able to hobble about.
Your job?
I was private secretary to the president of Schultz Sausages. Poor Mr. Schultz, I don't know how he'll manage without me.
Your shorthand notes?
Thank you for the refreshments. I must hurry back for my medication. Come, Angela.
One heir had not invited them in, but that didn't stop Sidel Pulaski from barging into apartment 2D.
Hi, Chris. Just thought we'd pop in to see how you're doing. Don't be scared. I'm not the murderer. Angela is not the murderer. And we don't think you are the murderer. Mind if I sit down?
The secretary toppled into a chair next to the invalid before he could reply.
Here, I stole a macaroon for you. It's so sticky you'll be tasting it all day. I must have 6 strands of coconut between my upper molars.
Chris took the cookie.
Just look at that smile. It could break your heart.
Angela wished her partner had not said that. It seemed so insensitive, so crude. But at least Sidel was talking to him, which was more than she was able to do. Angela, the fortunate one, standing like a dummy. I know Denton wants to work on the clues with you. He's snowbound too. You very pretty? How did pretty come out? He meant to say nice. Chris bent his curly head over the geography book in his lap. She wasn't laughing at him. It was all right to ask her because she was going to marry his partner. What are grants? Angela did not understand. Chris fanned the pages of the book to a picture of a wheat field. Grants. Oh, grains. You want to know the name of some grains. Let's see. There's wheat, rye, corn, barley, oats. O's. Angela thought the boy was going into a fit, but he was only repeating her last word. Oats. Sidel was puffing her warm breath on the window and wiping a frosted area clean with her sleeve.
There. Now you'll be able to watch the birds again. Anything else we can do for you, young man?
Chris nodded. Read me shorthand notes. The pretty lady and the funny lady moved quickly out the door. One limped, but it was a pretended limp, he could tell. Not like the limper on the Westinghouse lawn. Oats. Chris closed his eyes to picture the clues. 4 plain grain shed. Grain equals oats. Otis Amber. 4 plus D from shed equals Ford. But neither the delivery boy nor the judge limped, and he still hadn't figured out she or plain. He'd have to wait for Denton Deer. Denton Deer was smart. He was a doctor. Chris raised his binoculars to the cliff. Wind-blown drifts buttressed the house. Something moved on the second floor, a hand holding back the edge of a drape. Slowly, the heavy drape fell back against the window. The Westinghouse was snowbound too, and somebody was snowbound in it. Only one of the players thought the clues told how the $10,000 check was to be spent. Take stock in America, the will said. Go for broke, the will said. In the stock market, Turtle said, and whoever makes the most money wins it all, the whole $200 million. Their clues. C, Mountain, M-O. Stood for symbols of 3 corporations listed on the stock exchange. C, MT, the abbreviation for mountain. A-M-O.
But M and O are separate clues,
Flora Baumbach said. To confuse us.
But what about the murderer? I thought we were supposed to find the name of the murderer.
To put us off the track. If the police suspected murder, she'd be in jail by now. Her fingerprints were over everything in the Westinghouse, including the corpse. You don't really think one of us could have killed a living, breathing human being in cold blood, do you, Mrs. Baumbach? Do you? Turtle did, but the dressmaker was a cream puff.
Don't you look at me like that, Turtle Wexler. You know very well I could never think of such a thing. I must have misunderstood. Oh, my, I just wish Miss Pulaski had shown us her copy of the will.
Turtle returned to her calculations, multiplying numbers of shares times price, adding a broker's commission, trying to total the sums up to $10,000 they had to spend. Flora Baumbach may have been wrong about the murderer, but she was not convinced of Turtle's plan.
What about buy Westing paper products? I'm sure that was in the will.
Great, Turtle exclaimed. We'll do just that. We'll add WPP to the list of stocks we're going to buy. Flora Baumbach had watched enough television commercials to know that buy Westing paper products meant that as soon as she could get to the market, she'd buy all the Westing products on the shelf. Still, it felt good to have a child around again. She'd play along gladly.
You know, Turtle, you may be right about putting our money in the stock market. I remember the will said, "May God thy gold refine." That must be from the Bible.
Shakespeare, Turtle replied. All quotations were either from the Bible or Shakespeare.